there is a problem in food prices that could happen as interest rates go up, as there will be shortages of certain products.
More and more families are finding it more and more difficult to survive. They're finding themselves living paycheck to paycheck, making it much more difficult just to make ends meet, to simply prepare and to store food for the coming crises, to prepare for future shortages, food shortages, potential empty shell situations, inflation. It seems like every single potential crisis that could land our way is coming our way. We've been seeing 100-year type of scenarios happening every 10 years, every 25 years. The frequencies are picking up and things are getting so much worse. The United States is now only 30 days away from a potential railroad labor strike that could literally affect so many things, including goods availabilities. Obviously, this could create new food shortages. This could create increased demand and load and stress on the already stressed out, maxed out trucking industry. If this railroad shortage or if this railroad strike takes place, this could be devastating. I've also got a warning that I want to share with you that came from BlackRock as well as another CEO. So the CEO of BlackRock, he released a warning, but another CEO followed up, and you guys are going to want to hear this. Now, let's briefly talk about these railroad shortages or the railroad strike that is impending. So we've got the delays on the United States railroads, and this has basically been a growing problem for the whole shipping, agricultural goods, as well as car parts, as well as a number of different raw materials that we depend on. And we're already attempting to overcome supply chain shortages, and we're trying to get back on track since the whole pandemic. And now that everything is essentially back open, there's still some factories that are shut down in China. They're trying to bring those back online. But if our railroad shut down, that's literally like the circulatory system in a body. If your blood can't flow, the patient's going to die. And if our products can't flow throughout the United States, you know, it's not going to be good. And, you know, the labor discussions are ongoing with the whole grain industry being concerned about the possible labor stoppage come mid-September, which is what, maybe about a month away. Here's the other thing, guys. Harvests are down drastically. And the food that we're seeing in the grocery stores, a lot of people are like, well, you know, we don't have shortages. We don't have food shortages now. We're living off of much of last year's harvests. So if you're living on roughly last year's harvest, what will happen next year or as we approach the end of this year as supplies continue to dwindle and new harvests aren't up to spec? This is a big concern. This is a big question that everyone has on their mind. And just this week, the White House appointed Presidential Emergency Board. They released a recommendation as a part of this ongoing collective bargaining process, but both sides essentially have 30 days to accept these recommendations. And if these parties don't agree, well, then the railroad workers are allowed to go on strike as of September 16th. So that's really less than 30 days from now at this point. And that's a coordinated effort with the labor unions going on strike, potentially going on strike by September 16th. Now, there's nothing that would stop a worker or a group of workers or all of the workers to just say, hey, screw this. Whether you say we're striking or not, we're not going to work unless they drastically increase our wages, give us more time off, give us more benefits. Things could get really messy really, really quickly. Max Fisher, who's the chief economist at the National Grain and Feed Association, he's basically been watching the situation pretty closely. He says that the biggest takeaway from the emergency board's recommendations is a 24% wage increase over 5 years for rail labor. So basically, they're looking to get a 25% raise. Now, we're looking at companies that would be impacted along the lines of BNSF, which is Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway's larger railroad investment. So you've got BNSF, you've got CSX, you've got Norfolk Southern, you've got Canadian railroads. There's a number of different railroads that would be kind of linked up among these railroads that would be affected by a potential strike. Beyond that, we have Larry Fink, who is the CEO of BlackRock, and he's expressing his concerns regarding future food shortages. He indicates that the prices of energy, petroleum-based agricultural inputs shot up earlier this year when Western nations imposed sanctions on Russia after the invasion. Grain and edible oil costs were also hit hard because Ukraine is a major exporter. Now, this is not new news to pretty much anyone following the channel. But he did go on to say that although lower oil prices have started to feed through the price at the pump for motorists, consumer goods companies are continuing to see high input costs. Any drop in fertilizer prices is likely to come too late to boost this year's food harvests. He goes on to say that, quote, there has been tremendous destruction of arable lands in Ukraine. Globally, the cost of fertilizer is up almost 100%. And that additional cost is reducing the amount of fertilizer used in farming. That is harming the quality of the crop worldwide. So obviously, you know, this is a problem, but it's very striking that the CEO of BlackRock is bringing this up as if food shortages would actually affect him. And I'm pretty sure if you're a billionaire, if you're a CEO of some mega multi-billion dollar company, food shortages are not going to impact you. So you have to wonder, why is the CEO of BlackRock issuing warnings like this? Also, on the back of the BlackRock CEO warning on food shortages, we got another recent CEO warning of additional food shortages. I wanted to share this information with you guys.
Need optimism from the White House point of view to the American people, because everything that's been done lately has hurt the American people and helped the rest of the world. There is a problem in food prices that could happen as interest rates go up, as there will be shortages of certain products. There's another problem that has not come to light yet, and I discussed it with Maria a few months ago, is a lot of our major factories, a lot, maybe about 20 of them, have burned down in the last 18 months or been destroyed. And nobody's really investigating what's going on in that end.
I think it's really interesting that a big-time billion-dollar CEO is bringing up the fact that a multitude of food plants, food processing sites have been burned down, and yet the President of the United States has yet to address this. It's just a little bit alarming how much of an impact that this is having. Randomly, 10,000 cattle just magically turn up dead. I mean, there are so many different instances that are going on right now. One would have to really question what is really happening, and you almost have to put the coincidence factor behind. The sequence of events is almost impossible for this to be a coincidence.
The Biden administration touting lower gas prices, lower diesel prices, as we're seeing the food prices soar. But shipping is also a key aspect of food prices as well. I'm wondering if lower prices with respect to fuel will help, because what I see when I look at this equation is pricing at the pump will vary because it's a commodity and we see those prices rise and fall. But whenever I've seen the price of a Starbucks cup of coffee go up, I've never seen it come down. And the same with a lot of the popular household items that we see at the store. I mean, I wonder if some of this inflation with respect to food isn't now embedded in the economy.
It will be here to stay, because people don't take it down as easily as they take it up. And that's what I worry about, too.
So, and she's right, the CEO's right. Prices, they'll go up super fast, but they're not going to come down super fast. Prices at the gas station, they'll go up on the scare, on the fear, on the probability, on the likelihood that there may be a shutdown. Even if there isn't a shutdown, let's just say there's a hurricane coming. Refineries may need to shut down. Well, even if the refinery doesn't shut down, the threat of a shutdown will drive up prices. And once the threat passes, do we see the gas prices start declining quickly? No, we don't. And they certainly don't go below where they previously were to make up for the added profit margin that the oil and gas companies have made on a threat of a refinery shutdown that never actually materializes. Inflation. The CEO mentioned that obviously the impact of inflation is going to continue to drive up food prices. We know this, but more importantly is the fact that the interest rate is going to have a huge impact on the material costs, the manufacturing costs of food and for other products. So what are we hearing? What are we seeing from the Federal Reserve? We're seeing and we're expecting nothing more than more aggressive interest rate hikes coming from the Federal Reserve. Fed Chair Jerome Powell's recent FOMC meeting revealed that it is more likely that we're going to see interest rates increasing similar to what we've seen over the last couple of months. So families need to be preparing right now. We talked about this several videos back where, sometimes you just look back and you think to yourself, man, those were the good old days. And you reflect and reminisce on these previous times where things were better. And I hate to bring it to you folks, but I think the future is going to be even worse than what we're experiencing today before it gets better. I am very, very confident that it will get better, but I think that the future will be worse before it does get better. So take this time now to stock up, stockpile, fill the pantries, fill your savings accounts, build your financial reserves, create that additional stream of income because layoffs are coming. We've already seen layoffs from a multitude of different companies. And I expect to see more layoffs. We're seeing a slowdown in the housing market. We're not seeing a housing market crash, but we are seeing a slowdown in the housing sales. Rent prices are expected to continue to go higher. So families need to prepare. They need an added security blanket in the form of potentially extended emergency fund funds. I would highly recommend looking to create an additional source of income. That way, in the event that a layoff does come your way, you're not caught off guard. But anyway, if you made it this far in this video, drop a like for the video. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know if this resonates with you guys. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.